recording. And I'm happy to introduce our speaker today, John Putz. John is a proud father of a baby with 5.5 months old. John is also a musician, photographer, and a long-time meditator. On top of that, John is a certified facilitator of Search Inside Yourself and Make Time. Born and based in Berlin, and John is on the mission to make to help establish more human-centered and purpose-driven and connected teams, leadership, and workplaces. John, we are happy to have you here, and John will we'll speak about workplaces and how to create engaging workplaces in your organization, and we'll share some secrets with us. No more delays, John. The floor is yours.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Valeria, and hello, everyone. Dialing in from Berlin. Just a quick correction. I'm indeed based in Berlin, but born in Amsterdam, like the place where Valeria is right now. Pleasure to see you all. We have indeed a nice intimate group, so we might be done in 1 hour instead of 1.5. As usually with bigger groups, there is more sharing, more breakout rooms, but with a smaller group, we can keep it nice and intimate. So we are here today to explore how we can build those type of workplaces where people want to work, those places that feel like families, like communities, where we can experience a sense of belonging. And when together, we can be a force for good in the world and be of service to something greater than ourselves. And unfortunately, still these days, too many organizations that I see from my own experience in the tech and the consultancy world, as well as the work I'm doing as a facilitator and trainer with organizations and leaders and teams, that too often we get lost in distractions, overloaded by workload, by emails, sometimes engaging in competition culture, sometimes our egos get in the way, sometimes we focus too much on shareholder pressure, sometimes it feels like there is too much focus on the revenue curve instead of actually doing good. And we've also lost touch a little bit with the human part of the business world. We've lost a bit of touch with feeling deeply connected to our work and to each other, and have more purpose and use work as a tool to fulfill our purpose and use our gifts. So this is some of the things I truly hope to contribute to. And therefore, a big part of what I do is help leaders, L&D folks and teams and organizations in a broader sense to really make engaging cultures where it's not just about having nice words on the wall, nice values, but where it's about really integrating culture into how we breathe, how we live, how we behave, what kind of practices we have, what kind of meeting culture we have, what kind of agreements we make at work. So to really make it come alive. So just as Valeria already said briefly about myself, I am based in Berlin, originally from the Netherlands, and I have a background in tech. Some of the time was at Google at the European headquarters in Dublin. I've spent some time as a product lead in Berlin as well at several startups and scale-ups, among others, Get Your Guide. But 5 years ago, I realized that yes, I was passionate about making amazing products. Yes, I was passionate about helping my team become better designers, become better analysts, become better engineers. But I was even more interested in them as a human. So the conversations became deeper. I started exploring what really lights them up. I started organizing more gatherings where, people would come together and connect more with their purpose. I started guiding meditations and tried to bring a bit more of that humanity. And then I knew in 2019 that this is what I wanted to focus on more. So I transitioned into coaching and facilitation and speaking. I got certified in a couple of modalities like integral coaching, Search Inside Yourself, Make Time, the Enneagram, circle facilitation, and so on. And since then, I've had the privilege of working with lots of bright, high-achieving, ambitious professionals, leaders, and teams in companies like Google, Vinted, L'Oreal, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Bol, a big one in the Netherlands, and others. And yeah, really contribute to that mission that I'm on, as I said, to humanize work, to create more purpose, more connection, and do that together in service of something greater than ourselves. So briefly, what we are here for today, a quick check-in with why are we actually here? What is it that this topic of culture is opening up to us? And this is where I'd also love to hear from you. Then I'd love to talk a bit about what does the future of L&D look like? What does the future of learning look like? How can we truly create a work environment where we and L&D as a function can make us ready for what's to come and focus on the right skills and the right way of learning? So then we're going to look at the top culture cornerstones from my work and from some of the authorities out there. What are the cornerstones, the core elements that these days are necessary to truly create an amazing workplace where people want to work, where people stay, where people don't leave the company that easily? And of course, we'll close together with some final takeaways. So why are we here? Firstly, my question is to you. What draws you to this topic? What drew you to this webinar? Since we're a small group, I'd love to just give the space to all of you that want to briefly share. So perhaps any one of you can start by simply unmuting and share why you are here and what you're interested in taking away from this session, and also what connects you to this topic.
I've accidentally unmuted myself, so I may as well go first.
Amazing.
Coincidentally, I was in a meeting this morning as part of a transformation consultancy that I do some work with, and they were saying that they have 3 main transformations that people want to see, and the number 1 of those is creating happier, healthier, more growth-focused work environments. So it just seems serendipitous. I don't know whether I was already signed up for this or not, but here it is.
Very much aligned. Thank you, Shankar, for kicking us off. Who is next?
I can go. I really love learning more in this space. I think engagement is one of those elements that is so critical to businesses thriving. Like anybody who's in that HR people ops space, I think what we're trying to build is an employee experience that people feel engaged with. So they're engaged with the mission and the culture and the team. And I think anything that can create more building blocks around that, because every company is so different and culture is so different, and there's no one size fits all for it. And having different frameworks is what I'm really hoping to get out of this, of just more tools, more systems to think about to help other companies.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And welcome to those that just joined, Sanjana and Daria. We're just in a little check-in, why you are here, what connects you to this topic of building amazing workplace culture. So we're just giving everyone that wants to share briefly the space. Who would like to go next? Yes, Valeria.
I would like to know how can I, from a learning L&D perspective, boost this engagement within workplace, how to show the example or motivate people to collaborate with each other, go beyond of what is already known. So
Perfect. Really bringing that into your work and contributing to an amazing, engaged, happy workplace.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Who else would
I
like?
can go next. So as for me, it's really interesting. I don't know if it's going to be the perspective of today's session, but yeah, I agree with colleagues that how to increase engagement rate, how to get the audience captivated with learning programs because what I have been noticing so far is that we have just kind of in the company the same audience for the same events, so that we are running. Yeah, and it's interesting just like how to build this culture, engaging, and yeah, and with what initiatives, maybe something like this.
Perfect. Thank you, Daria. For those of you that can turn your cameras on, you're very much welcome. So we're a little bit more engaged with the call and we see each other's face as well. Thank you, Sanjana. Makes us a bit more connected despite sort of the limitations of a virtual connection. Who else can briefly share about their motivation for being here and for this topic in a broader sense?
I can go next, and especially because I relate to what Daria said. For me, it's I'm working more on the culture perspective, so taking care of the employee experience, and I work alongside with our learning and development leads. So for us, it's really how to make sure that we go beyond the typical people who always participate, because we have noticed that that really impacts on our engagement results and the way that we build our different like global action plans, especially because we have the challenge that we are a company that have offices in Asia, we have offices in America, we have offices in EMEA. So each country is quite different, so maybe the needs are also different from each. So it's quite challenging working on that, especially being just one culture lead and one L&D lead. So yeah.
Got it. Lots of challenges, but also the heart and the passion to really connect the people and do this across continents. Great task that you're on. Any other voices?
I could go next.
Yes.
Hi, am I audible?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sanjana. I'm connected from Delhi, India. And I've been working as a facilitator in mental health space, where I work for youth mental health, particularly students in colleges. But it's been a while since I've been doing that. And now I am looking forward to expand my skills to also private spaces and how we can build a healthy culture in organizations as well. So I think everything that you'll be sharing today would be very new for me, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for being here. Again, what an international crowd, and very much aligned what you said with the topic. Great. I think W Photo wanted to also share. What is your name? W Photo is your Zoom name, but I'd love to hear from you.
I think it's Villa.
Villa, yes. Villa.
Oh, sorry, I guess that's me. Yeah, so previously I'm working at a startup, and it's been such a roller coaster within the company. At first, when I joined the company, we are so focusing on growth. So at that time, I was really into providing engagement and supporting the company's growth. But then after half a year, we hit into kind of a suspend period. So we're not looking for growth, and there are some economic headwinds in the macroeconomic environment. And so at that time, my focus turned to kind of identify and supporting any kind of burnout or concerns that any of the team members have during that time. So so for today's session, I would really love to learn more about how can a HR professional can support a company during the excitement in the growth period, but also take care of the employees in terms of the engagement perspective during the downturn.
Got it. Beautiful. Thank you very much. I think we have Kate left. Would you also like to briefly share why you're here?
Yeah, no problem. I work for a large
American corporations for a very, very long time. But I'm currently on a journey where I'm working now as a consultant. And the work I do is largely focused on helping leaders of teams, whether they are, you know, leaders to a new team or their composition of the team's changed, or there's something not quite right. And I work with those leaders to help understand the dynamics of their team and what's happening so that they can work towards team cohesion and a sustainable culture across their broader teams. So I'm interested in today's session just to expose my brain to some new ideas, hear from some different voices, see if I can pick up some new tips or tricks. And I'm just interested in hearing what everyone else has to say on the subject.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kate, and thank you everyone for bringing your voices. I feel there's a lot of connecting dots, and also with what I'd like to share with you. And I'd love this to be a co-created space. So when there's moments where you feel there's an impulse coming up of something relevant, then feel free to raise your hand, or if there's some opportunities to engage, to bring in your voice, because we all have different parts of the bigger piece and we can contribute. Cool. So why are we here? I also want to share a couple of things that I see happening in many organizations, many cultures that are requiring our attention. So firstly, one of the things I see is that 27% of employees genuinely believe in their company values, to the point that they believe it's actually something that they want to be able to see apply in their daily work to as much degree as possible. 50% of jobs, this is the slide I wanted to start with, sorry. Yeah, so 50% of job seekers prioritize company culture over salary. So it's important to the point that people have realized that, of course, salary is important. That's not something people ignore, but the day-to-day way, how they feel, how they experience their job and themselves is dependent on whether they really feel a sense of belonging, a sense of safety, a sense of purpose, a sense of being able to balance their work with their life and really feeling they can stand for something. They want to put their time and energy into this job. So it's really something they need in order to feel connected to the company and to stay at the company. And unfortunately, at the moment, 80% of employees, according to this recent study from Gallup, feel disengaged with their work, feel disengaged with what they do, leading to lower personal productivity and therefore also company success. And we actually need engagement, because engagement is something that isn't just there for people to experience their workplace as a better workplace and be more happy. Sometimes people think that happier employees doesn't necessarily mean better company success, but they're very much correlated. So what we see here is that actually, if you look at the best places to work, the revenue per employee grows much higher at the companies that are rated as the best companies to work with the best cultures. So it's a key productivity measure that has steadily increased over the past 2 years among the Fortune 100 best companies to work for. So happier people, more engaged people also means better business results. So it's not an either or. And we also see this here, that the companies that keep being rated as the best places to work actually beat the market by a factor 3.36. So just wanted to show those two slides to really give you also as an L&D specialist or different angles that you have on this work, that building a great culture and having place where people feel genuinely happy and content is not just something that is important for people's satisfaction, but directly impacting the business success. So that's a few things that I see out there. And with that, let's then take this a little bit further into more specifically, what does that then mean for the most important cornerstones for the best cultures out there? What do these companies that keep ranking as the best place to work have in common? So let's start with actually hearing from you before I go into sharing a little bit more what I have found in my years of work with organizations. And we'll do that with a short breakout room. So we'll put you in groups of 3 and you'll get 2 minutes each to think about for yourself, for all the companies from all the cultures that you've been a part of, if you were able to try to extract in 2 minutes, what is it really that makes some of those that you were a part of great and some of those not so great? What doesn't contribute to? So this will form a start of our exploration deeper into can we extract the gold from those cultures where you already have had that firsthand experience and sort of take that also into your current work, so you can sort of take that wisdom and start hopefully integrating it more into maybe what's missing in your organization and in your teams right now. So Valeria has been so kind to help set up the breakout room. So it's probably at the moment there is, let's see, we are 9 people. So we can have 3 groups of 3. And then we'll explore this 2 minutes each, and then we'll come back into the bigger space.
Kate, you were invited to the room number 1.
Okay, thank you. Yes, key terms, neurodiversity is becoming more and more important in many conversations, diverse perspectives, and also the part of support for women in that. Some very important pieces there, absolutely. Thank you. Any other voice on this that wants to come forward? Okay, looks like most of you have shared and expressed through the Mentimeter tool. So let's go back to the presentation. So what can I share on this topic? So a lot of these things that you shared actually connect with what we see here. So what separates the best cultures from the worst is something that also the Fearless Culture has explored. And in a recent research from March, they've come up with the 5 most important components of the best cultures out there, as well as the 5 components that you see mostly in the worst cultures. And as Shankar said, diverse perspective is indeed a very important part of it. Also, some of the things that you shared here, like communication and transparency, are actually part of the most important cornerstone. And you can probably see many things connecting to what you've shared here as well, right? So safety, spreading it, management support, well-being. You need to experience these aspects also in an organization, participation, autonomy. But yes, these are some of the key components, and those can be broken down. We'll look a little bit more into how to break those down, and that can then also become sort of topics for more specific, teams that can be addressed in organization. Like every organization will have different quality levels of each of these. Some will struggle with their level of communication or transparency from leadership. Maybe some struggle to include more diverse perspectives. Others don't really have that sense of cohesion and community and teamwork and a sense of family present. Others, maybe people are good at their work, but they're not really deriving meaning from it. It's not really what they love as well. And maybe there's too much micromanagement and lack of autonomy. So there's different levels where companies stand. And that's why also in the way I work with companies, I always first try to sense make and understand and listen. What are the core challenges there? Which is something that, of course, partially needs to come in from L&D and HR, because they have that eye that understands these topics, but also leadership interviews, other key stakeholders that are put forward as people that have a good understanding of what's playing in the organization, as well as a broader survey with the entire organization, where we can really learn from what are people reporting across the board and what can we find as some patterns of pain that are happening in the organization. Welcome, Andrea. Good to have you. We're just going through the key cornerstones of what separates the best cultures from the worst. And as I said, some of this is done by Fearless Culture, and this is an organization that has also created the Culture Design Canvas, which is a very powerful tool if you want to really map out a company culture into different components like decision-making, priorities, what are the typical rituals of an organization, what is our feedback culture, how do we practice psychological safety, what are the behaviors that we want to promote, what are the behaviors we want to punish, the norms, the rules. What is our meeting culture, especially when we are hybrid? What are our values and what are our purpose? All these things are things you can define much more clearly. And many of these organizations that you see here have used the culture canvas, have worked with Fearless Culture, and have helped really upgrade their culture, and therefore have become some of the big names out there that many people like to work. The thing that I really try to insist on when this work is being done, that I think is sometimes missing, is that sometimes we try to have amazing intentions, we try to have great discussions, we throw a lot of inspiring values and cultural ideas onto our people, onto our leaders, but it doesn't stick because unfortunately, we don't often rise to the level of our intentions, we fall to the level of our systems. If we don't manage to integrate and incorporate these values and these norms and these behaviors into concrete systems, into concrete agreements, into concrete practices, the way that we have meetings, the way that we agree how long meetings are, the way that we agree how much openness is brought from the top leadership in every decision that is brought, the rituals that we have in an organization. If that is not integrated to that level, we are not going to have a sustainable shift in our culture, in the behaviors, and therefore in how the company feels by everyone. So some of the things, as I said, that I often ask is lots of different questions. Here's an example of some questions that I would often ask to leaders, to L&D folks, but also as a broader survey with the entire organization. How satisfied are you actually with the culture? First of all, can we just check in? Do you even feel that the culture is reflected in the policies and practices? Do you trust company leadership? Do you feel that your voice is heard at this company? Do you feel that you would like to stay here for the longer time to come? Or do you have some doubts whether this is the right place? How happy are you with the feedback, the resources, the training that you receive, the benefits offered? Do you feel that you're being rewarded for good work? Is there a culture of praise or celebration? To really sort of go into the specifics of a lot of these different dimensions that you can map, and try to get a feel of where is the biggest low-hanging fruit? Where are we lacking this? So if we look at some of these dimensions, open communication, meaningful work, sense of community, and so on, what are some concrete ways how we can break those down into specific topics and into specific way of actually addressing that within our organization and teams? So to give you an idea, and today is a session of up to 1.5 hours. So of course, we're not going to go into the specifics, but I'm going to show you a bit of a breakdown of 3 of those cornerstones. So the top 3 ones, one of them being sense of community, teamwork, belonging, and all of these related things. If we think about the building blocks that contribute really, that makes this concrete, what are we going to talk about? First of all, psychological safety is a big one. This is the foundation of having honest conversations, of being able to show up authentically as a human in an organization without having to do so much impression management. So you feel part of the community for who you are and not for who you think you have to be to feel included. Praise and appreciation. What are the concrete practices that we can do? Kudos exercises, creating a wall of praise. Just a few examples of some of the stuff that I often help organizations to implement. Making impeccable agreements. Another thing that often happens is people don't always live up to what they say. And therefore it creates a lot of bitterness, and slowly tension and elephants in the room start growing. So there's a beautiful framework from the Conscious Leadership Group where we can specify how we can make agreements that are impeccable, where we're all on the same page and where there's clear accountability. The meeting ethos. There is often a meeting culture in many organizations where it's normal to be in back-to-back meetings, for meetings to always take 60 minutes, for no space between meetings, for many recurring meetings to just happen frequently with participants lists that are way bigger than the people that actually need to be there. So doing a proper cleanup of meetings, of recurring meetings, creating a culture where it's okay to decline in meetings, creating some conditions before a meeting is even scheduled, what needs to be there, maybe a short why or an agenda. Perhaps one of the things that I implement often is 45 is the new 60, which means that instead of 60 minutes, we make 45 the new default. 25 is the new 30. We make it normal again that people have this 10, 15 minutes between meetings to catch a breath, to maybe take a small break, to refresh their mind, to think about what did I get out of this meeting? What is my next piece of work or meeting about? Just these little things can really become concrete. And I'm so happy to see, Kate, that this is something that is already being implemented here and there. Unfortunately, still not across the board. So this is just a few quick things on a high level that, of course, when I really take teams and companies into the processes, we actually go into these piece by piece, and we actually practice them with people. So not just throwing information what it is, but actually interactively getting people into the work, getting them to either journal or going into breakout rooms, making commitments with them on an individual level, on a team level, and then gradually starting to implement those commitments with accountability. So we can really move from inspiration to exploration to collaboration and then to implementation, and then over time sort of tracking the implementation, whether it's actually happening and whether we need to jump in, adjust. So it's longer trajectories. Proper cultural transformation projects take months, but it starts with the urgency, the motivation from enough people in the organization that are in on this and are willing to do the work. And everyone has a role to play. It's not just leadership, it's not just L&D, it's not just the individual. It's sort of coming together, aligning that this is important to us, dedicating it time and energy, and then based on the specific challenges and needs of a company, starting to focus on the first 3, 4, 5 low-hanging fruits, getting those right, and then going to the next batch. Really, really step by step, instead of what often I see failing, which is over-ambitiously trying to take on too much at once, and then nothing ending up happening. Yes, absolutely, Shankar. Even more important to apply this for remote work and digital meetings, also with informal time in the meetings for casual connection. And also what we do is also rethinking types of meetings. Does this need an actual meeting? Do we need all participants in the meeting, or can we send a recording or just some highlights of the meeting to the people? Can we do a stand-up or a check-in? Can we just do this in Slack? There's so many different forms that we can experience with. Do we want the whiteboard in the meeting to get better at brainstorming instead of having everyone share? Miro is often more and more being used for that, but still many organizations are doing many things in a very slow, ineffective way, leading to way too much time being wasted. And we therefore do not always work smart. We work hard, but we don't work smart. 15 minutes to boost your energy level and bring your thought together. Absolutely. So that's a little highlight of some of the blocks that can be taken much deeper. I just want to show you one thing that is also about this topic of community and teamwork. It's a little video from the Conscious Leadership Group that shows you a little bit of what does it mean to have a great, authentic, successful team, and what does it mean when it's completely the opposite. So enjoy this little video with a nice animation that gives you a bit more color to how does an amazing team look like in a thriving culture.
Are you a pseudo or an authentic team? Brought to you by the Conscious Leadership Group. Find them on the web at www.conscious.is. High-performing teams can locate themselves. They can tell whether they are functioning as a pseudo or authentic team. A pseudo team might have a name, roles, responsibilities, a budget, deliverables, and performance metrics, but they are not functioning as a fully authentic team. Pseudo teams are characterized by mild to intense complaining about each other, customers, suppliers, or other teams. Pseudo teams hide behind facades, personas, and pretense. They live from entitlement, have unhealthy and unresolved conflict, and defensiveness driven by a desire to prove they're right. Pseudo teams focus on rules and head knowledge alone. They fight to maintain the illusion of control. Pseudo teams can get things done, hit targets, and meet objectives, but they do so at a cost to the individuals on the team itself, and the organization. Some of the costs of pseudo teaming are low engagement, lack of creativity, high turnover, a lot of rework, secret meetings after the meeting, missed deadlines, and low morale. Authentic teams, in contrast, take healthy responsibility, value curiosity and learning, experience and express authentic feelings in constructive ways, choose appreciation, have high degrees of engagement, and can move through conflict to creativity. Authentic teams practice compassion and engage the heart as well as the head. To them, being present and curious is more important than being right. Conscious teams know that they will drift from authenticity. They commit to identify when they have drifted into pseudo-team. They accept themselves for this drift and recommit to functioning as an authentic team. High-performing teams know that there are gateways through which they must move if they are to shift from pseudo to authentic teaming. One gateway is articulating and aligning the group's commitments and recommitting when they drift. Another gateway is speaking truthfully and openly with candor. Nothing breaks a team out of pseudo-teaming like someone choosing to speak candidly. It takes courage and practice to become an authentic team. To move from pseudo-team to authentic team means moving into and through fears, experiencing vulnerability and often discomfort. Authentic teams are willing to risk embarrassment and even betrayal in order to move into greater authenticity. Finally, authentic teams practice accountability. They do this by taking 100% responsibility and being impeccable around their agreements. So, are you a pseudo or an authentic team?
All right. Always love that video, and it's often one of the favorites of some of my clients because it just, in a few minutes, in a nutshell, captures so many little specifics. And it's not a black and white thing. We can have elements of a pseudo team and we can have other elements of an authentic team, but it's about creating common language around it. And when we have language, we can more easily sit around the table and speak about it, look these issues into the eyes, and then go to these gateways that we've seen that can bring us back into more authentic modes. Yes, I will try to find a share of the link in a little bit. It's the Conscious Leadership Group, and it's called Authentic and Pseudo Teams. So if you cannot find it later, I will share a link. So that's in a nutshell around this very important area of teamwork, sense of community that, as you've seen, rates in the top 3 of most important elements of thriving cultures. The other one, which is actually at the top of the list, is open communication, transparency. And again, this is a big beast that needs to be broken down. So I've just highlighted a couple of building blocks. This is by no means all of it, but some of the things that I see is often really powerful work that we can do is helping people to get better at influencing, helping people to really find the language that makes them able to move things forward, to influence their colleague, to influence their leader, to influence their customers. It's something that can be done through things like nonviolent communication, where instead of complaining, you're actually vulnerably sharing what's happened, what are your needs of yours that aren't met, and what is your concrete, clear request. So different frameworks can help with that. And it's empowering because you make everyone more entrepreneurial, and everyone across the organization, whether they have a label of a manager or leader or not, can start moving their projects forward. And the more of that engagement you create across the board, the more it contributes. So communication is really the tool to enable that. Of course, in also more difficult situations, we need to dare to step into conflicts and look at them and resolve them, because there's often a lot of toxicity and tension shoveled under the rug in organizations and in teams. So we need to have tools to dare to look at conflicts, of course, with the foundation of psychological safety. That is something we need, first of all, to even dare to speak about things. And then from that place, notice when there is conflict with someone and then taking responsibility to address it. And again, tools like nonviolent communication help people to communicate that in a way that doesn't create defense, but openness. So there's different frameworks and steps that I offer to teams. an organization that help us to move through conflict to connection. Feedback, another big beast, often spoken about, but what is really concrete, the best way to go about feedback? And of course, we have the usual cycles that happen from time to time, but my intention is really to inspire more continuous feedback. Small dose feedback delivered frequently, anytime when something doesn't feel it's quite right. People take responsibility to use feedback as a tool to collaborate better and to perhaps bring their needs, what they need from other colleagues, so they or the team can collaborate more. Setting boundaries and saying no, again, from what I often see, many employees consider themselves a yes employee, which means that they too often say yes when inside they actually feel no, because there's too often the sense of, if I say no, I'll be seen as an employee that isn't really committed or devoted to this work. I might disappoint people, I might create tension, but because of this, so many people are overwhelmed with the amount of project and workload. So we need to empower people to set boundaries, to say no, and there's quite a few nice techniques and tips that we can bring in for people to do that. We practice with people, and we can make big steps to help people so they are more empowered to not fill up their calendars with so many things that they aren't supposed to say yes to, and to dare to actually call it out when we're starting to say yes as a team or as an organization to things just because we think we have to do it, whereas it's actually not helpful. And of course, the other side of communication is listening. Many of the things that I apply in some of the work that I do, like the Search Inside Yourself program, is implementing many attentive or mindful listening exercises. So whatever share you do, if you can do it in a way that you give people this space for one person to first share 3 minutes and the other person to practice giving the full attention and just listening without interrupting, and then switch roles, we learn to sort of hold back our desire or our impulse to sometimes take over the conversation or comment too quickly before we've actually taken in what wants to be said. Because from deeper listening, you actually can bring something that's much more in line to what the situation needs. Like most meetings, think about how much they would go up in quality if everyone would truly know how to listen deeply. And this takes also some more work around self-awareness, because often people are so much running on autopilot, they don't even want to interrupt, they don't even want to keep switching the direction of the conversation. They're just not aware how much of a mess and busy noisiness is happening in the head. So some of the work we do is also really around mindfulness and developing self-awareness, developing awareness of which thoughts to execute on and which thoughts to let flow by. So this is also an issue of our time. We throw so many frameworks and tools and information and things into people's minds, they just cannot handle it. And instead, we need to make that mind and that cup and that capacity bigger. So this is what I call vertical development, developing that capacity for people to actually integrate all that information and do something with it rather than just filling their heads up with more and more. So that's a couple of things that we can address on the topic of communication. And of course, as some of you shared, how do you make this engaging? Well, the way you deliver workshops, the way you create these spaces of learning is what makes a difference between whether people want to come or not. So it requires really good facilitation. It requires a dynamic type of facilitation where you include the people, where there is co-creation, where there's different types of exercises alternating from inspiration to breakout rooms to journaling, perhaps a guided meditation, hands-on exercises, videos. You need to keep people engaged because attention spans are just very, very low these days. This training, this session is not specifically a facilitation training, so I will not go too much into the details of that, but I will share one of the tools that I love for feedback that can be used as part of this, which is the 5 R's of feedback. And it gives a beautiful, very easy to remember, quick framework of how we can inspire our people to take more ownership of feedback by going through the cycles of actually taking the initiative, thinking about who you need feedback from, what kind of help do you need, then applying active listening, asking clarifying questions. Don't just judge. Ask yourself the question, where are they right? Giving feedback is not always easy. So when you listen, can you take out the gems without focusing on being defensive about the one or two things they say that is not true? It becomes easier if you don't respond directly, but take some time to let it simmer, consider what's relevant and what's not, only use what you want to use. And then what we often forget is closing the loop, actually going back to them, being thankful, being respectful. And this is also the chance where you get to give feedback on the feedback, and where you might say, wow, thank you so much for this. I got some really good part of it. Can I also request one thing for you for the next time? What I need from you to receive the feedback in an even better way. And then you can share one or two things that you need from them. And then integrate and implement the feedback. So the third dimension that I want to highlight today from these building blocks is meaningful work. Now, I'm sure all of you know that it's important to keep waking up in the morning and feel excited for what you are going to put your precious limited time and energy every day into, is for you to really feel that the work aligns with your values, with what you care about, with something that really energizes you and makes you feel fulfilled at the end of the day. And as you've seen in the statistic earlier, that over 80% of people don't feel engaged with their work these days, it means that we're not doing a good enough job in really helping people to find meaning in work. So some of the things that I believe really are helpful here is working on self-awareness. You cannot find out what's meaningful for people. You need to help them connect to themselves, to connect to their intuition, to connect to that sense in their body that gives them information when something feels alive and energizing and opening, and when something feels contracting and draining and heavy. And from them to start listening to that, this is where emotional intelligence comes in. Emotions carry information, they carry wisdom. And when people are cut off from the emotions, like many of us living mostly above this line in the head, we do not get that feedback from the body. And people will keep saying yes to things just because their head says they should do it, and they don't connect to actually, is this a full body yes? Do I really feel aliveness? So really that vertical development, that levels of that increase of consciousness in the individual, and then through that the collective, team and organizational consciousness. This can be done through some of the work of discovering values, helping people do this through tools like Ikigai, using tools like positive psychology will help people also understand how to find a fulfilled way of living and working. And also focusing on service through customer centricity. So often customer centricity is a bit of a buzzword. It's often one of the cultural values, but the way to make this even more powerful is remembering that deep inside on planet Earth, as humans, we want to use our gifts and strength to do good, to serve. And if we can connect what we care about, what naturally gives us energy and what drives us, what lights up our heart, to what the customer needs, then it's a win-win. When we are doing things just because the customer needs it, but we don't care about them, it loses the connection. But when the connection from our values to the type of work and company we choose to be a part of, then that loop is a natural win-win, where we get the meaning and the value from doing the work, and where it naturally creates abundance for whoever and whatever we're serving. So there's beautiful exercises that can be done there to help people connect first to their values, and then from that place connect their values to what is this company and what is your work about. So it's a natural and empowering method. So briefly, one of the tools, as I said, that you can use for this is Ikigai. There's different exercises that you can do for people to connect with their Ikigai, which is a Japanese framework that means the reason for being, and it connects what you're good at with what you love, with what the world needs, with what can be paid for. Because often what happens is people get good at something just because they choose it early in their life. They choose their university without knowing themselves yet. They build their resume and their career on that. And then they end up earning decent or good money with that. And they might not always love it. They might not always get that ongoing energy from it. So having these moments for people to really pause and reassess and reconnect whether they also really love what they do, and then also help them see that the deeper meaning in their life and in their career will come if they don't just do it for their own their own needs, what they try to get out of their job, but for something greater than themselves, then they will really move closer to really feeling alive and engaged in their work and therefore in the company. And that again is a win-win for all. So again, this is a big topic. I'm trying to just like pick out some pieces today. So there's much more. I won't go into the details, but just so you know, there's other areas like helping organizations deal with the big workload and excessive meeting culture issue, empathy and compassion, which is applying self-awareness to the interpersonal collective space and helping people to feel others more. And of course, as already has been shared, neurodiversity, becoming more and more aware that we're all different people with different programmings, with different brains, and we need to understand that in order to make sure that everyone feels included and can be contributing to the greater whole. So just going to pause for a moment here and just check in what's alive in the group, any insights or questions or comments that have come up as we've sort of taken a very quick journey across some of these core cultural building blocks and cornerstones. Yes, Valeria, please.
Thank you, John. The whole session, I have the feeling it's very mindful, very ownership driven, responsibility driven session. And in the previous slides, you mentioned it's important to voice over the elephant in the room. How can you make it in a in a safe way, so everyone feels comfortable, avoid some pushbacks, but at the same time voice it over?
Great. Yeah, this is very much connected to indeed the topic of difficult conversations. And the foundation is developing psychological safety. So creating an environment where people feel safe to be themselves, feel safe to even speak up. So if there's no psychological safety in place, then it becomes very hard to go into the more difficult practices of really speaking to like tense, bigger topics that are happening in the team. Once the psychological safety is there, then I recommend not everything has to be discussed in the bigger meeting. So sometimes there's an elephant in the team because two people haven't addressed something with them. So always start with the minimum viable intervention. And this starts again with responsibility. So if you feel that there is some tension between you and a teammate and the rest of the team suffers from that, to then have a culture where there is and for example, you have an agreement. Thank you, Sanyana. Take care. Where there is an agreement in the team that we resolve conflicts quickly. And we repeat that frequently to each other. We have it somewhere. And then we have something to stand on because we know that our agreement is we resolve conflicts quickly. And when you have a conflict or tension with someone, you are responsible for approaching that person. If it's indeed more in the team, then the manager or leader of that team is most often the easiest to take that initiative. And it requires a bit of facilitation. So it requires a space where the leader or the manager or the facilitator of that session where we try to address the elephant asks if everyone wants to briefly share their perspective of the situation. So giving different people the voice one by one to prevent the dominant voice to always get the most of the space. Perhaps it also helps to first let people maybe journal for a minute or two, so to get their thoughts straight. giving people a bit of a context, an intro. Like, I noticed there is a little bit of tension growing in the team recently. I want to come together for 30 minutes to sort of see if we can put our finger on it. First, I want to give you all the space to just journal for a minute or two about this. What is your experience? Is there indeed something you notice or not? And then everybody getting 1 or 2 minutes to share it. And then you can sort of synthesize what has been shared. And if there's a specific topic, you can build on that. Because also often when a conflict is resolved with the 4 or 5 other teammates there, they create some sense of accountability. It becomes, it's less likely to escalate when 3 or 4 other people are watching. So it's a safe place where you can slowly build up the comfort to start speaking about the uncomfortable. That's one approach you can have. There is many ways to do this, but maybe for now, this is something I can offer.
Thanks, John.
Villa.
Hi, John. So I do have one question. It's more specific regarding the initial survey part. So you mentioned that it would be great to conduct a survey, like prior to doing the engagement initiatives and practices. So I was wondering, in general, what kind of survey would be the most preferable or most the greatest format to do? Is it doing interviews or doing it like a quantifiable scale of survey?
Yeah, good question. So I would do both. I would interview a couple of people across the organization, like an executive, CEO, L&D specialist, and maybe an HR person, depending on the size of the organization, but maybe a few more random people across the organization. And then I would do a broader survey, which is more like through a Google form, where together with L&D, I would sit down and identify the core questions that I would want to ask. I have sort of a directory of lots of questions that I've used before, and I sort of pull from there. This is an example of some of the questions that can be a part of this, and you make it quantifiable indeed. So you end up with like different graphs, different scores from 1 to 10 for different areas. And then you see if you can find the top 5 or top 7 biggest pain points, and you start focusing on those. So it's a lot of indeed listening and understanding before you start tailoring specific plans and content for the culture trajectory.
Okay, I see. And one more specific detail I want to ask is that for the survey to be drafted out, do you derive the questions from the content that you get from the interviews, or and for this full survey, all the questions and like the format, do you need to do a pilot survey beforehand to make sure like the how to say this, the to make sure the validation of the survey itself, or not at all?
I've done both. So sometimes indeed, I first do the interviews, and then based on the interviews, I have a better sense of what questions to ask. Or if I already have a relationship with the L&D and I know the organization already a bit more, then I would already draft the questions, and perhaps after the interviews, I would tweak it a little bit. I didn't understand the last part of your question about validating the survey, but that would be the order.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I can see. Yeah, I guess I get it. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Daria.
Yes, so thank you, John. It's really, really interesting and insightful. And honestly, I would love to work in such a work setting where all these principles are embodied. Yeah, but I have the question, kind of the reality check. Imagining that you have the buy-in from upper management, and initially it is their request, yes, just to build the culture, to have such culture values and the flows. But the reality check, you meet with resistance among teammates who just like want to do the job they have and they don't want to engage in this culture building and in this ikigai and whatsoever.
Yeah.
What would be your tip here? Yeah, what would you recommend how to deal with this resistance?
Great. Yeah. So overall, I would say when I do trainings or programs, I try to always invite the organization to do it with an opt-in. So where people can say themselves whether they want to sign up for this or not, because when people have to do something, it risks that they will not do it because of their intrinsic motivation. So when you offer different trainings, program, leadership development trajectories to give people that final say whether they are in or not, during sessions when you meet with skeptics, I welcome it. I often even say I welcome skeptics. I want all the voices to be able to be expressed. And I try to really listen to them. And often when they have some of their skepticism expressed and they feel it's welcome, something releases and they're again more open to be creative. And often also skepticism and people that are really like a little bit like antagonistic in an organization, they don't do this because they're purely evil beings. They do it because there is some pain, something that's not addressed. They are sort of not heard because leadership is not always great at creating spaces where people can really feel heard. So I love implementing Ask Me Anything sessions where I sort of like invite leaders to have some very, very open spaces once every 2 or 3 weeks where people can come and literally ask any question and where leaders should answer with lots of vulnerability. So you'll always have this in organizations, and those are some of the ways how to welcome the skeptics. And eventually it might also mean to have an honest conversation. If you are too far away from these values or this organization, then we need to have a conversation whether this is the right company for you. And that happens very much on an individual level. And HR often can pick out some of those people because eventually those can become toxic to the culture. You do want to have enough people that are in, and even if you'll have a small part of people that are not really in, if the vast majority is really bought into it, that will create enough critical mass for things to move forward in the right direction. And perhaps just some individual interventions with some people or conversations will then be needed.
Got it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so the final thing that I wanted to share is just a few things about the future of learning. I have a few interesting things that I've learned in the last sort of analysis that I did, and of course, taking into account all the things that I've said. But what do you really need for the next coming years, 5, 10 years? What kind of skills in order to make sure that you are future-proofing learning, you're future-proofing a company and the culture so that you can keep attracting and engaging and retaining the best talents? This is from a recent study of the World Economic Forum, and 6 out of 10 are human-centered. So there's definitely a movement towards more human-centered skills like leadership, social influence, resilience, flexibility, curiosity, lifelong learning, motivation, self-awareness, empathy, active listening. Those are all examples of some of the skills that the World Economic Forum has thoroughly analyzed. This report has hundreds of pages, but this is some of the key summaries of what specifically I believe is relevant for organization. Also, similar to this, Microsoft has done a trend analysis, and the top 3 skills that they found is these 3. And again, emotional intelligence, very much this human vertical type of skill is number 3. So this is something I work on a lot with organization: flexibility, adaptability, resilience, especially in the big changing times that are connected to AI is highly, highly critical. And then also some of the other things here is, as you know, many conversations have been happening on the topic of AI. It will come more and more, it will have an impact, and it will also impact some of the skills that people have, and some jobs will be impacted. And therefore, again, I think the essential thing to say here is the shift from horizontal learning to vertical learning. AI will more and more take over things that are very much informational. So you get more and more at your fingertips access to tons of information, that what I call horizontal learning, putting more information, tools, frameworks, and theory into people's heads. It's part of learning, but it's becoming less important. What's important is vertical learning. I talked about it a bit already. It's helping people to become more conscious of themselves, self-aware, connected to their intuition, to their bodies, to their motivation, to what gives them energy, what doesn't give them energy, to their ability to connect empathically with others and feel what's happening in the team and be able to address that. It's their ability to actually integrate and implement and apply the learnings rather than just going in one ear and out of the other. And also the way of learning. So not just one-way traffic, but really creating engaging workshops and leadership trainings where, again, you combine lots of different things, co-creation, guided meditations to get people to connect, small group exercises, large group exercises, open vulnerable shares in the bigger group, making agreements to create confidentiality and safety, showing videos, giving a bit of theory, going it again into the bigger group, really getting people to play and practice with the tools and the theory is where the vertical learning starts happening. So that's a big part of what I see is happening. The other thing is leadership, the focus on better leadership, because we still see a gap of trust in leadership. 21% believes that their leadership, that they trust the leadership of their company. And there's a couple of different areas where we want to improve that. So I think one of the terms that is more and more coined is servant leadership, which prioritizes the growth and well-being of others rather than the traditional type of leadership, which seeks leadership as a rank to obtain for the grandeur of their ego, that uses their power and their manager card to drive performance, that measures success mostly through output, that mostly speaks and believes it's about them. We want to help leaders transition more to a sense of service, using their power to drive engagement, measuring to growth and development, to listen more instead of speak and understand it's not about them. So we are coming to the end of this. So just to go towards the closing, I want to just create a space for you all to briefly share your final piece. I see already some beautiful shares in the chat of some things that some of you have implemented. So thank you, Kate, for helping to co-create the space with some of the things that have worked for you. I just want to ask you all to just reflect on one big insight you've had from today that you can share with the group. You can either do it in the chat, or maybe if you feel called to actually share it with your voice, so that we can close it together in a co-created way.
I can go first if you like. I felt reassured and grateful that you shared the World Economic Forum slide with the future of jobs, especially at the moment where we're seeing so many tremendous amounts of layoffs across different companies, and my LinkedIn's full of people looking for jobs and things like that, but the human skills are still needed. That is very reassuring. I think that as people who are interested in people, is something that drives us, and it makes me feel like there's a future.
Beautiful. Thank you. Any other shares?
I can comment. I like that even though AI is developing, but still we as learning leaders need to bring this awareness of this vertical learning to our network, and boost and promote it via resources and information what you shared today, John. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you so much. I'll already put my details here on the screen as we close the round. So those of you that want to get in touch, maybe have some follow-up questions after the session that you didn't get to, or brainstorm some things, maybe get some support in helping to humanize and future-proof, your teams and your organization. I'm always happy to speak about that. So I'll just keep that on the screen and see who else has something to share. I see Daria has shared already in the chat, and Andrea, maybe if Shankar, Villa, if you have any final words. Okay, so in that case, thank you from my side. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed the intimate open space. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out. And also, Valeria, thank you so much for organizing this platform and bringing us together. If you have any final things, Valeria, then feel free to take over from my side. Thank you and have a beautiful evening.
Thanks, John. As Shankar said, unusually I don't have comments. I think we all need this buffer and time to digest the content that we received today. John, big thank from L&D Shakers community to you for your time today, and to everyone who joined and dedicated your time to learning something new today. I wish you all a lovely rest of the day, and stay tuned for the next ThoughtLab sessions. Bye-bye.